Okay, we will officially start. It is noon, and we have several presenters that we will hear from today. First, we will start with Hannah Callaway as she comes to the podium at this time. Give her a round of applause. And as always, after you have presented, wipe everything down again so that the next person will have plenty. I'm looking at the list here. Is Patrick, you can go second. Jonathan, you go third. And then Amy, you can go fourth. And one more time.
So today I'm going to be talking to y'all about animals that make great pets. We all know that there are many different animals that are pets, but I'm going to be showing you some pets that are usual and some that are unusual. So I'm going to start off with pets that like people normally have. So first one we have dogs. You know, obviously everybody likes dogs. So dogs are great pets to have because people usually, they're kind-hearted, they're very smart, and they're comforting. They're also very protective. I have a dog, and this is my dog right here. Her name's Callie. She's a boxer. Um, we got her to be protective, but honestly, she could never hurt a fly at all. She's the most loving dog I've ever had. She's caring. She loves cuddles. She's like the happiest dog. I also have my Mimi's dog. This is her. Her name's Maggie. She's a golden doodle. Also, best cuddler. She loves cuddles. She overall is like a great dog. My Mimi, she honestly she doesn't like pets at all. But she got a dog and she honestly is in love with her and like would never give her away. And then at the top, what I'm cuddling is my friend's dog. He is a Australian Shepherd. His name's Bentley, and he's also a great cuddler. He is very protective too, but honestly, just like my dog, wouldn't hurt a fly. And dogs are just overall great pets, and I really recommend getting a dog if you want a pet. So then, next I have cats. Me personally, I've never had a cat, but I looked up why they make great pets, and I researched that it'll keep your house rodent free. They're low maintenance and independent, and they can help reduce stress. That really caught my attention because I was like, how can they reduce stress? And I looked it up, I researched it, and it said if you have like a hard, long day after work or school, you just like pet their fur, and then it'll just like be stress-free, would be stress-free, which was really interesting to me. And so now I might get a cat just because of that. And I think that would be great pet, honestly. And then third, I have fish. I have a fish. Me and my roommate got him like the first week we were here, I think, just because we wanted a pet. We know we couldn't have dogs or anything. So that's my fish. We don't have a name for her yet, but I don't really know one. But she is a beta fish, and they are a lot easier to take care of than like dogs or cats or anything because they're low maintenance too. And they're less expensive, they're peaceful, and you don't really have to, walk them outside or take them to do anything. You don't have to entertain them a whole lot. And overall, fish, great pets. And then now I have birds. Birds are extremely intelligent. They're easy to train. They're very social, and they're very entertaining to watch and to be around. People like having them as pets because they're inexpensive to take care of, also low maintenance. And I've honestly never had a bird, but I think it would be pretty cool to have as a pet. Do y'all have birds? No, I have birds. Okay. And then fourth, I have reptiles. Reptiles are easy to clean. They're easy to, they can live in like small spaces too. So it won't be that hard to keep them in your room or in your household. And then they're safe and they're really unique to like look at and see all the different kinds of reptiles you can get. And right here I'm holding is one of my teachers from high school. Her name's Ellie. And she would just let us hold her, like she wouldn't crawl around or anything. And she'd love to get pet on the top of her head. And she's just like, I think they're just really good pets. Like they don't bark, they don't hiss, they don't do anything like that. So I think they'd be really good pets. And now we have unusual pets. I looked up unusual pets, and this is what I gave me. We have flying squirrel. This one's kind of weird to me, but I looked it up and people have this. And honestly, I think it would be an awesome pet to have. They're interesting to watch fly. And when I was in middle school, I had a friend that brought his pet flying squirrel to school, and it would like fly across the room. And really entertaining to watch. And then they're pretty calm, and every time like it would fly, and my friend went like this to his hand, it would just come right back, which was really interesting to watch. I also researched that it said that they're well bond to their humans, and overall I think it would be a pretty cool pet to have. So next I have a fence fox. I've personally never heard of this, but I researched it, and it seems like people who have this pet says it's just like a dog. So it's only 16 inches, so they're not that big. And it says they're very social and very protective. And honestly, overall, I think it would be a pretty cool pet to have a fox as a pet. And then last, I have fainting goats. These goats, they have charming personalities. They're friendly, and it says their physical size makes them easier to raise as pets, because I guess they're kind of big as a normal dog. And then they also like remind me of like little kids because they like to jump around and run, and just they're so energized. And then when I researched fainting goats, I researched if the fainting harmed them, and it said it didn't, like at all. They faint because if something or someone scares them, they'll just like fall over. They just faint for like a short time, so it's just like someone scares them, they'll faint, and then they'll get right back up. And then I have a short video for y'all if you want to see it.
Like me, Reverend Warnock knows that both parties in Washington could use some moral leadership.
He thinks insurance companies should not be allowed to discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions, like me.
This time we had a senator who put Georgians first, like me.
They're just very energized. And in conclusion, I would like to say thank you for listening to my speech, and I hope you all enjoyed it.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Grace.
You're
so cute. I want to work in this video. Like,
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. But like now I'm like.
Yeah, fade and go. I think we should.
Garden.
Hello everyone, my name is Patrick Dunlap. I'm going to teach you how to solve the Rubik's Cube. This is a little frustrating puzzle for a lot of different people because if you're like me, you sat down with it and you were determined to solve it or figure it out, but you really can't, no matter how much time you spend. So I decided to, look up how to do it, and it turns out it's not really difficult. It just requires a different way of thinking about it. So some things that you need to know to understand how to solve this is that it's made up of pieces, not individual squares. Everyone thinks about it as individual squares, but if you look at it, it's a cube, so it has 6 different sides, yellow, white, blue, green, orange, red, and the center pieces never move. And then the other pieces are 8 corners that each have 3 sides, and there are 12 edge pieces that each have 2 sides. That's important because there are 12 ways of actually turning it. There are 2 for each side. So say if I had the Rubik's Cube like this, there's a front, back, up, down, left, and right. And the 12 ways you can turn it are front clockwise, front counterclockwise. We call those front and front inverted, back clockwise, back counterclockwise, back inverted, then up inverted, down inverted, left inverted, and so on. You need those kind of notations to perform like series of term people call algorithms. That sounds intimidating and like it's not, but it's not. It's just the kind of way that you have to turn it. So I'm going to go through the process of how you solve a Rubik's Cube by solving it through layers instead of just side by side. A lot of people have that fallacy of when they start, they say, I can get one side done. But if you're not completing it with the edges and the rest of the colors matching it, you're not really going to have much success. So I'm going to go through the first phase now with this unsolved cube that I have. Everyone just usually starts on the white side. There's no real reason for that. People just figure might as well start on one side. And you want to get the 4 white edges to form a cross. You want to follow the second example, not the first. Because you see in the first example that the blue and the orange edge pieces don't really match. So that's not going to be any good going forward solving it. There's no fancy algorithms for this. You just kind of fiddle around with it and you get a feel for eventually how to make a cross like that. And next we're going to go on to the white corners. You'll take your white side of the Rubik's Cube and put it up top, and you'll look on the bottom edge for any corner pieces that belong on the top side in between these 3. So on up there, you'll see that there's a white, red, and blue corner that you'll find in the bottom. Here I have a white, green, and red. So I'm just going to position it under the place where it belongs and do this algorithm until eventually it gets into its right place. That's right inverted, down inverted, right down, until eventually it's in its right spot. It's all oriented correctly. Then I go find another corner and do the exact same thing. Eventually, you get an entire side solved, but better than that, you get the entire first layer solved. And that's going to be important going forward. Now I'll just flip it on its bottom, so the white's on the bottom, and we can move on to the second layer. The second layer, our goal is to move the 8 edge pieces into their correct position. So you want to find the edge pieces on the front or on the top layer right here, and you can either move them left, like in that left picture, or right, into that right picture, depending on which side they belong in. There are different algorithms for each. To go left, it would be up inverted, left inverted, up, left, up, forward, up inverted, forward inverted. Just like that. And do that with every side, or with every piece that's misplaced until do that, and look at that, you have an entire second layer solved like that. Now we're going to move on to the third layer. It's the most complicated. There's a lot of steps and algorithms because you have to make sure to not mess up this stuff we've already solved. First thing you want to do is get a yellow cross, get all the yellow face edges pointed upwards. There's an algorithm right there. You position it where it's a line put like this, with a square like this, you'll put it towards you and do the same algorithm. Forward, right, up, right inverted, up inverted, forward inverted. Do that a couple times, and you'll get yourself a nice yellow cross. Next we have to orient the yellow edges. How mathematically this works is there's always going to be 2 sides that are correct and 2 sides that are incorrect. This algorithm, so what you want to do is put the correct sides on your back and right, and then this algorithm will switch the left and the front sides. And that's right, up, right inverted, up, right, up to, right inverted, up. And now you've successfully placed all the edges in the correct spots. The only thing you have to worry about now is getting the correct corners. There are 2 parts to that. You have to get the corners in the correct places first. So for here, if you have any corner that's in the correct space, like this one, you just do this algorithm. Put it in front right and do up, right, up inverted, left inverted, up, right, inverted, up inverted, left. Yeah. All right. So now every piece is in the right spot. Some of them are just oriented incorrectly. So that brings us to our last algorithm, which is orient corners. You'll just take whichever corner needs to be rotated and do right inverted, down inverted, right down. It's the same algorithm from the very beginning. Do that until it's in its right place, twist it around, and congrats, you solved Rubik's Cube. So I wanted to show a little demonstration, either that I could do that or someone scrambled it, but that didn't really seem sanitary. So I decided to show you guys someone that's a lot faster than me. This is Yusheng Du. He holds the world record for the fastest solved a 3x3 Rubik's Cube. This video is from 2018. You'll see the judge, he's over there, number 3. You'll see the judge take the cover off Rubik's Cube, it's gonna take a couple seconds to examine it, then pick it back up and solve it. And saying he's done. And gets all excited, everyone claps, and he holds up the number 3 seconds. By like half a second too, is a really significant one. So that's, there's a lot of other different categories if you're interested in this, because like I was showing you, it's not too difficult, it's just kind of like a fun party trick if you want to learn it. You can do speed cubing, you can do blindfolded, you can do massive puzzles like these, like I can't solve this, or like even larger cubes, and if you want to learn more about this guy, you can go online and see the exact way his cube is mixed and the exact methodology he used to solve it in 5 seconds. And that's my presentation.
For me, I put stuff on the comedian. I did comedians because I always thought that they have a lot of guts, always making people laugh, and like the only downside is what happens if the joke's not funny. And I always wanted to know how they could come up with a routine that could make most, if not everyone, laugh. And so I looked it up, and before becoming a comedian, there are some unspoken rules or just general knowledge that nearly every comedian should know. And that is that they shouldn't copy or steal other people's jokes, because most of the comedians on the scene, it's their life story. Like they lived through it and they experienced it. So it's not really fair for you to like steal somebody's like joke about what happened to their friends or parents or whatever, because it's their life. So that was a rule that I found kind of disrespectful. And like I said, they use their life experience as a joke because there's just some things that like you can't write or you can never imagine happen, but it happened in real life. So like you never think, oh, this day it can be very funny, but that's typically never the case. But it's funny when it happens, and it just the other rule is to be yourself, because they're here to see you make them laugh, not here trying to. They're not there trying to watch you be someone else making them laugh. So if they do that, they might as well just go to the person who is them. And the last, and feel like the more important one is to show expression, don't be monotone. Because it's just boring if you hear the same joke. If you hear a joke, but it's just the same tone just the whole time. Then you show some expression, some compassion or something. And what makes a comedian funny? Comedians are just normal people, they're just normal people, except it's their skill to make people funny. Like, if you do anything for a long enough time, you'll be great at it. And for them, they chose to make people funny. They chose to make people laugh, and that's a skill that they wanted to perfect. So time and time again, they use jokes with different teams to make people laugh. And by that, I would consider them a master of language and just making sure that they find the right words to make the people laugh and find the right time to be expression and not to show, oh, wrong timing. And they do have a script more or less of like key points that they want to talk about, but they're never gonna read it word for word because that's not how humans are. We like to improvise or add words or take away words depending on how the crowd is. And they put emphasis on one or another word, like kind of like a punchline. Like, and the punchline is not just like the same tone as the rest of the sentence or the rest of the essay. They add a pizzazz on that one line that makes people remember them. And comedians are a job, kind of one of the other jobs because they started back when they were just considered jesters. So the jesters really are there to surprise people. And surprising is another way of laughter because you don't really expect it coming. But when you do, you can't help it but to laugh and to be shocked. And what makes each comedian different? Each comedian has a different point of view because they live different lives. So they can find things that are funny to some people that they don't to others, or find a crowd that likes their sense of humor. And that's what I find very cool because they can just like some people may not like who the comedians are based on their jokes or like they're not funny, but you'll find a crowd of people that are like, oh yes, they're funny because I've experienced that and I can feel or relate to what they're feeling. And they craft this skill for like years because it's not just something you wake up and just be great at it. And this is this is a comedian I saw that I thought was hilarious.
You created a business. Now, create videos for your business.
It's really tough to be a comedian on America's Got Talent, right?
Yes. But some people, not me. Not me. Not that. Yeah, my name is Quinton Lawson, 27, and I was a part of season 12 of America's Got Talent. What do you do for a living? I'm a stand-up comedian, which means I'm unemployed and I do stand-up on the side. I have the blessings right now. I think you are unbelievably talented, and I think this could be yours. So much to hear all the judges be like, we love you. That was a good one. So I was like, I'm about to win it. And then I was wrong. But you know, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Love you and enjoy. Before I was on America's Got Talent, it's really hard to get gigs. I would go to a lot of open mics and I would be there for hours. I wouldn't even get on stage. At one point, I was so broke, I had negative $14.87 in my bank account. I never forget that. I never forget that. Now, since being on the show, I've sold out every comic book I've ever been to, and I'm not broke anymore. Bro, Hollywood? Oh, Hollywood now? I'll show you, Pop. After America's Got Talent, I got both of my brothers out to LA. Growing up, things were super rough. My family used to sleep in cars. But my brothers always had my back. So now it's really cool to return the favor. And if I'm not broke, we all in there. Did it go in? No, man. Let's try it out the way. My ex-wife, right? I did one white girl, which is annoying, 'cause I went black, blackity black, Puerto Rican black, white, and everyone's like, I know that, like I came out the closet or something. They were like, yeah, you like team wise, salt and vinegar shit. I don't even know what that means, okay? I have no idea what that is. White women are my type. I just happen to live next to Trader Joe's. Like it's not something I'm searching for, you know. Different dating white, especially the black man, super different dating, different kisses for white girls. Because white women have white makeup. I don't know if y'all noticed, but I got a black face. Okay, so kind of like making out with a power donut, you know, like it just gets all over your face. When I looked in the mirror, I thought I was turning white. I was like, thank God. So black people look at me and they get mad. You have white girlfriend? You can't get a black queen? You want being black? Are you kidding me? I love being black so much that I got a white girlfriend so I can make her baby black. I was trying to say.
And so, yeah, he was just funny, like, he was able to just make anything of yours, which I found. Yeah. That's it. That's how, those are how you become a comedian.
So the contestant was ventriloquist.
Oh, no, he lost to, 12-year-old.
12-year-old, okay.
She was.
I remember
She
her.
was.
I remember her. I remember her, yeah. So like you said, he was able to get his family out of the rough neighborhood and, it's kind of home. So he made it. And thank you. Next, Amy, follow. See if there's something. So we just can continue on the word here. You get the credit, you get the class.
Yes, sir.
I do forget.
Okay.
My topic really hits home, especially with the coronavirus. I work as a CNA in a nursing home, and it really has hit there. We were actually fortunate. We only had 82 cases, but none was significant. We didn't lose anybody, so that was pretty good. But it has really took a toll on them. I've seen, they haven't seen seen their family since March. We still haven't got an update to see when they're gonna see their family. A lot of them, especially the ones who are in their right mind and they know what's going on, a lot of them feel isolated. I've had one resident tell me he feels trapped. And that's heartbreaking because you want to take their pain away, but you can't because you don't know how this will go. Often they feel alone. They've given up on life. A lot of them have. So it affects them socially and mentally. We have a courtyard, and they haven't been allowed out in their courtyard or outside, period. They're not allowed to leave their rooms. We had to change everything they do, so they're stuck in their rooms 24/7. Which is really bad because that's all they see. So pretty much they sleep all day long. Even the ones who get in the walk. A lot of them have, their mind has deteriorated. Their physical is deteriorating. Because they can't do nothing but sleep, which is most of the time what they do. Like I said, they are declining a lot faster. I had one resident that she went from being in her right mind, being able to walk, to falling at least 3 times a week. So now she is wheelchair bound, and she had just given up hope. And they have to get tested once a week, and they hate it because they're having to get stuff stuck up their nose, especially the ones that aren't in their right mind. They're fighting, they're hitting. I've been hit in the face several times while they were trying to test. And we can't calm them down because you can't. Like one resident, I'll tell them their family's coming to visit, or used to. They'll let me do what I need to be done. I can't even tell them that now. Because we have certain sections of our facility now that's been blocked off for people who are new or coming back from the hospital. They have 20 days stay. So they stay on one end of our facility, so they don't get to go back to their rooms. They don't get to see none of their stuff until 20 days is up, and that's when they get retested, and they finally get to come back to the rooms. They don't get to have personal items or anything like that. The statistics, facility, 156 facilities were impacted with this situation. 133, which is one of ours, has been resolved. Out of 392, 82 of our residents were positive. And lucky for us, we weren't part of the death. And we've had, not mistaken, we had at least 10 or 20 of our staff that have had it. But they've caught it like quick, and they don't. Habersham, out of all of them, is the highest county. Well, Stephen County was too. Stephen County had 82, 23%. Habersham had 15%, and Raglan has 82 or 8.2%. And if we get in the category of above 10%, we have to get tested every week. Or no, we have to get tested twice a week.
I'm Taekwon. My presentation is over rank for president. First things first, this is can get really complex. Like it's a really complicated situation and process. So in order to present this in a timely, fashionable manner, I really had to shorten it so I can make it streamlined. So therefore, you can all walk out with some idea of how to run for president if you choose to do so at some point in life. You want to run for president. You don't want to be a leader of the nation. All right. But yeah, so to make it more streamlined, I try to shorten it down and give you just really the basics of understanding. So first things first is the basics, the constitutional requirements. Now this is pretty much, I guess you can say, basic information that you already know. I'm pretty sure you learned this in some basic form social studies class of the basics of how to run for president. So it's being an actual born citizen, which means born on U.S. soil. It means in the mainland, continuous mainland. Or if you're born on the U.S. Army base, military base, that considers also as being an actual born citizen. Second, if you're 35 years or older, that's just how it is. And the other be a U.S. resident for 14 years. Also, you have to meet all three requirements. You cannot just meet two and then think you're good to go. You have to meet all three continuously. Next up is caucuses and primaries. Now, this is a really complicated. So the early 19th century, we kind of did away with caucuses. And now we basically just focus on primaries. Just to give you guys the more power to vote and choose your own candidates for presidency. So candidates in each party campaign throughout the country, meaning this is where you're putting out your platform and explaining what you want to run for. Second, you must win the favor of your party members. So you have the Democratic Party, Republican Party, you have to basically win their support so they can confirm you as their candidate. Caucus is basically, what the primary is, take a state. Like I said, caucuses are done away with, so we won't focus that. We focus on primaries, which I don't know if you remember, but early this year, there was a big focus on going to vote for primaries and Democratic candidates. And this is what this is. So basically, you have two types of primaries. You have open, you have a closed. Open means that anybody who's a registered voter can vote. If you're Republican, you can vote Democrat. You can just choose a candidate. Closed meaning you have to be a registered voter and of that party. Second is national conventions. This became a thing recently. This is always, now it's more of a, I guess you say a big party on TV. It lasts about 4 days. It's basically saying, hey, this is our final job. But to get to that point, you have a whole bunch of candidates. You usually have like 7 or 8 as your main candidates. And in the primaries, if you don't get the votes required, you don't make it to this stage. But nobody really does, because they all drop out anyway. I don't know if you remember this year, we had, the big 8, we had Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Pete, Bernie Sanders, all those big guys. They all dropped out because they lost the primaries. So Joe Biden was on the left. And so by default, he was kind of pretty much the Democratic primary. But if that didn't happen, make it to the stage, and the delegates from the Democratic Party will then vote to see who is their presidential candidate for that party. Also, in the primaries and the caucuses, you vote for the people who vote for the presidential-elect candidate. And also, you also select the vice president here also. To explain what you question you earlier. So back in the day, you voted for a president and for a vice president. So in theory, you could have a president with the vice president of your opponent. That doesn't really go together, right? That's just kind of weird. So at this point, we just made it where if you're the final nominee, you select your own vice president. You don't necessarily have to select it here. The vice president is usually announced 2 or 3 weeks before the actual national convention. Also, you vote on the rules and platform here also. So it's basically saying this is what this party represents for the upcoming presidential term. Also, the rules are basically how you elect the president to elect. That can really complicated, and just know that it's really about the platform that you're focusing on here. Campaigns. So this is more after the national convention. So basically here, you're focusing on to gain support. That is your main goal. To get as much followers as possible to vote for you in the actual election. As you know, you need a popular vote and also you do electoral vote. So second, you have to focus. Focus on the swing states and the roadmap. Swing states are the states that can determine whether or not you win the election. Every presidential term has that one state that determines whether or not you win. As you know, 2016, it was Florida. Florida's weird. I don't understand. Out of all the states, why Florida? I don't know. 2016, it was Ohio for Obama. Do you remember that? if you want to, if you want to hire. All right. So secondly, to do those two things, you have to use ads, error, and other various channels. So basically, I know you're seeing a lot of presidential ads on TV right now. So, hey, yes. And various channels mean social media. Social media is a new big one because, we're all help and use social media. So that's how old people reach out to us. So they can say, hey, vote for me. Target, you got target specific groups, meaning certain different demographics, such as Hispanics, minorities, to get support and, because they actually do matter. And last but not least, the general election. So the general election is basically on November 3rd this year, if you may not know. And people vote for the desired candidate. So you go to the polls and you will vote for one or two people. Now, here's where it gets a little confusing. Most people, when they grow up, or growing up, they think, if they vote and they get the most votes, that person wins. That is not true. As you have seen, the person can win a popular vote and still lose the election. Because at that point, the popular vote, honestly, is just basically a popularity contest. That's all it is. What you're really voting for is you're voting for electors. These are the people that really do matter. Not to say you really don't, but these people actually elect your president. So when you go to the polls and you vote, you're saying, hey, I vote for, John Doe. So you're voting for people in that state who supports John Doe. And that person would then cast a ballot for John Doe. Really, I know those people, a lot of steps. But here's the thing, that person is obliged to do that, but that person can also say, hey, I don't like that candidate. I'm gonna vote for this person. And that's what we were seeing in the 2016 election, and that was a big cost. So people were really confused about, well, how did Hillary lose? Well, because the people who voted for her, they voted electors who then chose Donald Trump as the president. So that's really the confusing part of it, of voting for electors. This is why there's now a big call out to get rid of the electoral college, because at that point it's not direct representation, and which it is not. So electors can only cast one vote. Electors are based off Congress representation. So each state has a certain amount of electors to vote for president. And as you know, the magic number is 270 from target. If a candidate reaches this target first, they are deemed to be president, and there's a total of 538 total votes to win president. And so, to wrap it up, this is what you need, this is what you have to do to run for president. That is representation.
Another round of applause. Speak with 16. Welcome. Before you get away. And on Wednesday, when we hear from the last group, Group D, have Ryan, Alex Schimmer, Megan Thompson, Reagan Hart, and David Coleman. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good day. You need to